Welcome to Sustainability Now, a COP29 special where we talk to the leaders driving the green energy transition. I'm your host, Hamera Chaudhry, and today we're honoured to have Elmir Musayev, the General Director of SOCAR Green. They're focused on spearheading renewable energy initiatives in Azerbaijan and beyond, aligning with the country's green energy transition targets. We'll be discussing their role at COP29, their ambitious projects, and their vision for a sustainable future. Elmir, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting.
Let's start with COP29. SOCAR Green is the official energy transition partner of the summit. What does this partnership mean for the company, and why is it important for SOCAR Green to be involved in this global climate platform?
So COP29 event is one of the major global platforms for companies like us to showcase the projects that we have, talk about the potential collaborations with major players in this industry, and explore partnerships with other companies, with other governments, and especially for a company like SOCAR Green, which is a relatively new company. The company was literally established on March 1st of 2024, and despite our short presence, we are already quite ambitious when it comes to green initiatives that we have. The timing is actually quite good because we have a certain plan in terms of expanding our operations in Azerbaijan, contributing to decarbonization targets of Azerbaijan and our parent company SOCAR. But I think the COP29 event happening this year in Azerbaijan accelerated significantly our plans, our expansion plans in this industry. And frankly speaking, just because of this COP29 event, a lot of companies throughout the whole world are contacting us, proposing some collaboration opportunities. How can we join our efforts to contribute to this challenge that we have as a humanity in general. So we are benefiting a lot as a new company from this event. We have high hopes in terms of the event itself during the COP29. We have a lot of announcements to make. Some of them are already publicly available, the projects that we are undertaking together with our international partners, but also we have some other announcements, some other collaboration projects that we would like to announce during the COP29. And that's part of the benefit of COP29. But other than that, as I mentioned, the climate challenge requires a collective effort, in our opinion. So it's not a one company game, it's not a one country game. But rather it requires all companies, all governments to jointly tackle this challenge. And in that respect, collaboration is key. And COP29 platform, being the global and probably the most important platform in this specific industry, provides this platform for these companies, for these governments to discuss, to exchange ideas, to exchange best practices, expertise, but at the same time provides the platform for these companies and organizations and countries to join efforts, to kind of brainstorm on how collectively they can tackle this challenge. We take pride being one of the partners, and we will actively participate, obviously, in this event. Looking forward to this event.
I'm looking forward to some of those announcements.
Definitely.
How does the company's participation, and I know you touched on it a little bit there in your answer with collaborative efforts with other countries, but how does your company's participation as a sponsor reflect your commitment to green energy transition? And what are you hoping to achieve by being at the forefront of COP29?
So our company, as I said, is a relatively new company, and one of the major objectives of the company is to bring the technology, the know-how into the country. So Azerbaijan has been quite decisive when it comes to transition, and we want to set an example in terms of transition into sustainable energy. And SOCAR Green sees itself quite pivotal in this respect. And one of the objectives and one of the tasks that we have is to bring the technology, bring the know-how into the country, the industry being relatively new itself. And that's why, being one of the sponsors, we are cooperating with COP29 to bring all these international reputable companies into the country. As I mentioned, we have a certain announcements to make, which includes a lot of collaborations with different reputable companies globally.
COP29 has been dubbed the Finance COP. How important is the alignment of green finance with your projects in Azerbaijan? And what do you hope to see in terms of outcomes related to renewable energy investment?
I think financing is one of the critical elements when it comes to this transition itself, because as we speak about the transition, we set the milestones, goals, targets, but it is extremely important to acknowledge the financing requirements of this transition. Obviously, it's not going to come at no cost. There will be some financing required, and I think the global financing institutions, they acknowledge, and they already have taken certain measures in that respect. So we already have certain projects, and I think as we develop these projects, we understand what tools, what financing opportunities are available, and what needs to be done further. So we are closely collaborating with the international financial institutions in this respect. So COP29 is actually one of the opportunities that COP29 will bring is to accelerate these discussions with the financial institutions, and not only with them, but with the private sector and with other governments in terms of what further steps need to be taken in order to provide financing for this transition, not only in Azerbaijan, obviously, but throughout the whole world.
You mentioned international partners. Can you share how SOCAR Green is working with global partners to push forward green energy innovations, especially through platforms like COP29?
That's a very good question. So when Azerbaijan took the initial steps in terms of the transition, there were a lot of foreign companies, international, global companies that showed interest in investing in Azerbaijan. There were reputable international companies from the Middle East, such as Masdar and Aquapower. BP showed quite a significant interest in investing in Azerbaijan. And they already have certain projects that are either under construction or already operational. So Masdar's solar PV project with a capacity of 230 megawatt is already operational. It was inaugurated in October of last year. Masdar's 240 megawatt wind project is under the construction and hopefully will be operational soon. So these two projects were the kind of the initial project that these foreign companies on a standalone basis, they invested into these projects. And now that SOCAR Green was established, we are kind of continuing on this path, and we are collaborating with both of the companies. With Masdar, we have 3 projects under the development, 2 solar projects and 1 wind project with a total capacity of 1 gigawatt. And we are joining our efforts in terms of not just development of the projects as such, but also the financing, right? Because as we mentioned, financing is one of the critical elements, and presence of companies like Masdar in this country obviously provides a bit more comfort to the financial institutions. And for us, obviously, we are leveraging from our experience in terms of financing, but at the same time, we are trying to maximize the learning curve in terms of how these projects can be developed, build the portfolio so that we can do that in the future in Azerbaijan, in other countries in the region as well. We have another project with BP in Jabrail district of Azerbaijan, which is a 240 megawatt AC solar PV project. It's an interesting project in the sense that firstly it's on the west coast of Azerbaijan in Jabrail district, which is the liberated territory of Azerbaijan, that will provide electricity to Sangachal terminal, which is an oil and gas terminal, the biggest in Azerbaijan, one of the biggest in the region or globally. So it's decarbonizing the oil and gas facilities of companies like BP and SOCAR, and at the same time developing renewable energy capacity in Azerbaijan. So SOCAR Green is actively collaborating in this project with BP. Obviously, we have a lot of other projects that we are considering that are in the pipeline, together with our partners, with other partners from Europe, from Middle East, and hopefully it will reach other continents as well in terms of the companies that we partner with.
I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into that, actually, with your partnerships. Azerbaijan is going through a major transition towards renewable energy, and you're playing a critical role in this shift. Can you tell us more about SOCAR Green's key projects, particularly in terms of green hydrogen production?
So Azerbaijan has targets, the nationally determined contributions that I think we all know, which is to increase the capacity of renewable energy to 30% by 2030 and to decrease greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by year 2050. So SOCAR Green, obviously, the projects that we are undertaking will be directly contributing to these targets of Azerbaijan. Green hydrogen is a bit more complicated when it comes to its realization compared to the renewable energy. So renewable energy projects are kind of like the low-hanging fruits. Green hydrogen requires a bit more assessment, a bit more potentially financing. And in this respect, we are collaborating with companies like Aqua Power and Masdar in terms of researching the possible production of green hydrogen in Azerbaijan and use of green hydrogen, be it for Azerbaijan local consumption or for export purposes.
So SOCAR Green, obviously very young, a very new company. Could you explain some of the challenges that it's facing when it comes to executing these large-scale renewable projects, and how are you addressing them?
Of course, actually there are a lot of challenges, not only applicable to young companies like SOCAR Green, but these are challenges that exist in the industry, unfortunately, and that's where this collective effort will help us to overcome these challenges together by sharing experiences and expertise. I think one of the main challenges which we are witnessing in Azerbaijan as well is the ability to integrate the renewable energy into the grid, because obviously there's a certain limitation in terms of how much renewable energy can be integrated into the national grid. And with the projects that we are undertaking, the grid will be, in terms of the ability to absorb renewable energy, will be fully utilized until 2027. So once these projects are operational, roughly 33% of installed capacity in Azerbaijan's national grid will come from renewable energy sources. Any addition to that will require obviously a bit more effort from the government, from obviously the companies that invest into the country as well as from consultants, financial institutions in terms of the technical assistance, etc. So that how can we what needs to be done to increase this renewable energy percentage that can be integrated into the national grid. Countries like Germany, countries like China, which are well ahead when it comes to the renewable energy integration into their national grid, even those countries have experienced a lot of challenges. There are a lot of lessons learned that they have, and it would be beneficial for other countries that are going through these to avoid these challenges. They can obviously learn from these countries. So to my knowledge, China recently reached 50% in terms of renewable energy, and Germany is also quite significant in that respect. So we can, by discussing, by exchanging know-how and expertise with these countries, we can also learn from them how we can increase the renewable energy in our national grid electricity system by avoiding all these additional side effects, negative side effects, so to say. When it comes to development of the renewable energy projects themselves, obviously there are a lot of challenges in the development of renewable energy themselves as well. There are certain, you have to be very careful with the environmental and social impact that these projects may have. And financial institutions that provide financing to these projects, obviously, they are very helpful. They guide all these investors in terms of, what needs to be done so that this impact on the environment and the social elements are minimum.
You mentioned some societal impact, environmental impact. What kind of impacts are you talking about exactly?
It's important that when these projects are developed, we pay attention to the potential side effects to the environment and the social communities, the local communities, because these projects require some areas to be dedicated, especially solar projects may have a big land allocated for these projects, and these areas may already have some existence and some small businesses or livelihood, and we may, if we need to reallocate them, then we have to, as the developers, we have to make sure that these local communities actually are better off at the end of the day. And obviously there are a lot of positive sides that there will be a lot of job creations in that specific area, and that would obviously help to these local communities. And from the environmental perspective, obviously we have to make sure that there is no side effect to the environment in terms of if there's a potential impact on the bird migration in that area, then we have to make sure that there is no impact in that bird migration. So we may need to reallocate the area a little bit or take necessary steps, measures. Or for offshore projects, we have to make sure that the marine life does not suffer. So if there's any negative impact, then we have to make sure that we take the necessary measures that this impact is removed.
A lot of important things to consider. You mentioned exploring solar, wind, and hydrogen, green hydrogen. Are you exploring any other routes?
When we say renewable energy, obviously a lot of people automatically think about only solar and wind, but renewable energy is much more than that. So as SOCAR Green, the scope of our company actually includes much more. We are not only in development of solar and wind projects, as well as green hydrogen, but we're also exploring opportunities in energy efficiency, energy storage solutions, including battery energy storage solutions, carbon capture and utilization and storage, and geothermal projects. We are already collaborating with some reputable international partners of ours to explore geothermal opportunities in Kalbajar, Lachen districts of Azerbaijan, as well as in the southern region of Azerbaijan, such as Lankaran, Masallı. And we're also collaborating with some international partners of ours that already have presence in Azerbaijan to explore opportunities in carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Energy efficiency is obviously one of the key directions for SOCAR Green that we are exploring a lot of opportunities. I think the renewable energy projects are important, but energy efficiency, in my opinion, is also as important as renewable energy because it's important how efficiently we utilize energy. And the more efficiency we can gain from the utilization of energy, that will also contribute to the sustainability in the long run.
SOCAR Green's work ties into the global decarbonisation movement, especially as countries seek to meet their green energy transition commitments. How do these projects contribute to global efforts to decarbonise, and what are your goals in this area?
So decarbonization globally is extremely important. A lot of progress has been made so far, but the emissions still remain high, and we need to all collectively to bring this decisive actions to a full speed in order to achieve the set targets of net zero. And in that respect, we talked about the targets that Azerbaijan as a country has, but at SOCAR, which is our parent company, SOCAR also has announced some targets in COP28 last year, which include zero routine flaring in all operational assets by 2030, a reduction of upstream emission intensity on equity basis by 30% by 2030 compared to 2022 numbers, and reduction of corporate emission intensity by 30% and absolute emissions by 20% on equity basis by 2035 compared to the 2022 baseline, and net zero methane emissions in upstream on equity basis by 2035, and achieving net zero emissions by 2050. So in this respect, SOCAR Green will play a pivotal role in supporting SOCAR to achieve these targets. So the projects that I mentioned that are under development will also contribute to these initiatives, but at the same time, we are collaborating with the internal stakeholders of SOCAR, including upstream, midstream teams to decarbonize the facilities of SOCAR. Now, our scope is not limited to decarbonization of oil and gas facilities in Azerbaijan, but also cooperating with other companies in Azerbaijan, which will also help reach this target both for Azerbaijan and both for SOCAR.
With COP being such an international global event, what innovations in green energy or best practice benchmarks are you looking to adopt and learn from?
That's a very good question, actually, because at SOCAR Green, we talked about the bringing know-how, the technology, expertise into the country. By collaborating with the companies, with international players, we're not just aiming to develop these projects and that's pretty much it, but we want to develop the mentality of creating think tanks, creating R&D centers within SOCAR Green. And in that respect, we call it the Expertise Center, and we want to not only contribute to these decarbonization efforts by developing the projects, but also bringing some new solutions as SOCAR Green. So we want to contribute to the development of the technology, of the know-how itself ultimately.
What message do you want to convey to global leaders and investors at COP29 regarding your role in accelerating the green transition and decarbonisation efforts?
I think it will be a very good opportunity for us and for other companies, as a matter of fact, to give messages to financial institutions, to global leaders, which they already know that time is clicking. We don't have unlimited time. And we need to take action. We need to take action today. So we need to acknowledge the importance of the challenges that come with the climate change, and we need to accelerate the pace to the full speed. And in that respect, we need to join our efforts, because, as I mentioned at the beginning, this requires a collective effort. So we need to collaborate more. We need to maybe create even more platforms for these organizations, for these institutions to come together and to think or to brainstorm on the solutions on how these challenges collectively can be tackled, even in a shorter period of time.
Elmir, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insights. It's clear that SOCAR Green is playing a pivotal role not only in Azerbaijan's energy transition, but also in the broader global push towards a low-carbon future. Is there anything you want to close with, or do you have any closing remarks, anything you'd like to add?
I would like to thank you for inviting me, for the interesting conversation, for interesting questions. And I think these kind of podcasts are very important as well, because they increase awareness, which is one of the important elements, as a matter of fact, that the whole community needs to engage in these efforts. So I think this podcast will help a lot in that respect. So thank you very much one more time.
Thank you. And thank you to our viewers and our listeners for tuning into this episode of Sustainability Now, a COP29 special. Stay tuned as we continue to cover the green transition and sustainability initiatives right here from Baku in the lead up and during COP29.